Democrats and Republicans come together to try to fix the Veterans Affairs mess. This is Special Report. Good evening, I'm Brett Baer. We begin with taking care of the men and women who fight America's battles. Lawmakers have struck a deal tonight to spend billions to begin repairing a veterans' health care system that has all but collapsed. Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel has the facts and figures from Capitol Hill.
This has been a very difficult process.
Still, a bipartisan deal has been struck on a $17 billion compromise to address the veterans' health care scandal. That is just shy of the $17.6 billion acting VA Secretary Sloan Gibson requested from Congress. Those involved in the intense negotiations say $5 billion of it is paid for with cuts elsewhere, and the rest is labeled emergency spending.
The veterans need quick response. And this is the way that we need to be able to make sure that veterans are not standing in line.
Planes and tanks and guns are a cost of war. So is taking care of the men and women who use those weapons and who fight our battles.
The measure includes allowing veterans living more than 40 miles from a VA facility or those who have been waiting at least a month the chance to receive outside medical treatment, providing some choice and flexibility.
I don't believe that there will be a flight of all of the veterans out of the system, but we don't know until we start this program.
The scandal came to light in the spring when whistleblowers said veterans hospitals, including a facility in Phoenix, manipulated waiting lists to hide long delays and allegations that veterans died while waiting for treatment. It cost then Secretary Eric Shinseki his job in May.
The VA is not sacred, the veteran is. And that's the most important thing for all of us to remember.
This deal would provide $5 billion to allow the VA to hire more medical professionals and staff to help address the patient backlog.
We hope that with more doctors and nurses and space coming in, the VA system itself will be able to accommodate more veterans in a timely manner.
This compromise would also allow the VA Secretary to hold incompetent senior executives accountable.
This bill contains language which will allow the Secretary to fire people immediately who are underperforming or lying.
Although there were times when it appeared the bipartisan talks were on the verge of collapse.
All involved say this is not a permanent solution for the VA, but the hope seems to be addressing some of the most pressing issues before lawmakers leave for August recess. Brett?
Mike Emanuel live on the Hill. Mike, thanks. Medicare trustees say slower growth in health care expenses last year has improved the program's long-term funding outlook. The trustees say the fund will run out of money in 2030, 4 years later than previous estimates, and in line with the latest figures from the Congressional Budget Office. Social Security trustees say they will be unable to fully pay all disability claims by 2016. Stocks were mixed today. The Dow gained 22, the S&P 500 was up a half, the Nasdaq lost 5. Obama administration officials are defending Secretary of State John Kerry's bid to secure a ceasefire, a bid that failed over the weekend with an Israeli rejection. The United Nations Security Council is also calling for an immediate and unconditional truce between Israel and Hamas. As correspondent Connor Powell reports from Gaza City, despite efforts to get another deal to the table, the fighting continues.
The lull broken, the conflict resumed. Hamas fired rockets across the border, while Israeli jets pounded Gaza. A brief calm in the fighting all but forgotten. Civilians once again paying the price. Explosions rocking a park and a medical building near Gaza's main hospital today. Both Hamas and Israel blamed each other. At least 10 Palestinians were killed, 8 of them children. Dozens more were injured. Despite the international pressure to stop the fighting, most Israelis support the war. A poll by the Jerusalem Post newspaper said 86% of Jewish Israelis oppose the ceasefire.
There is no more just war than this one, that our heroic sons fight.
But Hamas remains defiant, insisting on its conditions for a ceasefire.
Our people actually lived under the siege of 8 years. This is a collective punishment. We need to lift the siege. We have to have a port. We have to have an airport.
In a sign of a possible expansion of the military operation, Israel sent text messages to residents in northern Gaza, warning them to flee the fighting, even though designated safe areas have proven to be dangerous throughout the conflict. And Israeli planes dropped leaflets in Gaza with a list of Hamas fighters killed. They aim to get people afraid, this man says. No one cares. I think the paper's silly. It doesn't mean anything to the people. Israeli soldiers continue to attack Hamas's vast tunnel system. Commanders say they've destroyed 60% of the underground network. But Hamas fighters were able to infiltrate into Israel today. Both sides suffered casualties. 4 more Israeli soldiers were killed in a mortar attack. Meanwhile, in Washington, Secretary of State John Kerry said the U.S. will continue pressing both sides to halt the fighting.
We believe the momentum generated by a humanitarian ceasefire is the best way to be able to begin to negotiate and find out.
Support for Hamas appears to remain strong here in Gaza right now, meaning neither Israeli politicians nor Hamas leaders are under any domestic pressure to wrap this war up, Brett.
Connor Powell live in Gaza City early Tuesday morning. Connor, thank you. Senior political analyst Brit Hume is here tonight with some thoughts on this entire process. Good evening, Brit.
Hi, Brett. As it seeks to suppress the rocket attacks from Gaza, Israel has a couple of handicaps. One is the behavior of the people of Gaza. The other is the government of the United States. The late Israeli diplomat Abba Eban famously said of Arabs that they, quote, never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. Gazans certainly had an opportunity back in 2005 when Israel ended its occupation there, leaving that coastal region free to make something of itself. What it did was to continue shooting rockets into Israel and in 2006 elected the terrorist organization Hamas to run its government. Hamas proceeded to turn much of Gaza into a subterranean fortress in which to hide weapons and dig tunnels to sneak killers and kidnappers into Israel. Now it complains bitterly that Israel has blockaded air, sea, and land routes into Gaza. Israel says this is necessary to stop the flow of weapons. Its critics say the blockade goes well beyond that. The current warfare follows the collapse of John Kerry's efforts to broker a full-blown peace deal between Israel and the Palestinians, an effort that never seemed promising from the start. Israel now seems ready to see this fight through to the point of crippling Hamas militarily. Hamas counts on world opinion, swayed by the horror of civilian casualties, to force an early ceasefire and the lifting of the blockade. Kerry tried to sell that idea to the Israelis over the weekend. Surprise, he failed. Again. Brett?
Brett, we saw the administration, what looked like, appeared to be walking back some of that deal after the Israelis, on a number of different media outlets, criticized the ceasefire that they said almost undermined the Egyptian ceasefire.
Well, the Egyptian ceasefire is one that the Israelis supported and Hamas rejected. So Kerry flies into the breach and ends up proposing, if that draft can be believed, and I think it can, something that is the Hamas blueprint. It's exactly what Hamas and its allies in places like Qatar wanted. And so it was unanimously rejected. And, of course, you have to remember this. Public opinion tends to go against Israel worldwide, but not in the United States. The United States public opinion is about where it's always been in this conflict, and as in previous conflicts. So when an American administration gets out ahead of itself and it seems to be operating against Israel, you'll see something like we saw today with the administration saying, gee, we didn't really mean that, or they didn't put it that way, but that's what it comes down to. It was a blunder.
Thank you.
You bet.
Up next, what the black boxes tell us about what brought down a civilian airliner over Ukraine. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates across the country are covering tonight. Fox 10 in Phoenix with what did not cause last week's botched execution of a death row inmate. The doctor who performed the autopsy on Joseph Wood says the intravenous lines were placed correctly. Wood gasped and snorted, according to authorities, more than 600 times over the more than hour and a half before he was pronounced dead. Fox 5 in New York, where a suspect dressed as Spider-Man is accused of punching a police officer who told him to stop harassing tourists in Times Square. Authorities say costumed characters have long been accused of inappropriately touching and interacting with visitors. And this is a live look at Revere, Massachusetts from Fox 25 in Boston. The big story there tonight, a tornado touchdown. Authorities report some minor injuries, including a baby who was hit by glass after a tree fell on a car it was in, the baby. Another person was injured in a partial roof collapse. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.